What's happening with the economy in 2025? Well, I've got some predictions. And let me tell you, this is going to be a very different year for our economy and for a lot of things. So let's begin. As many of you know, we've been in a lot of economic instability because here in America, we've been going through a Pluto return, and definitely around the time of Trump's inauguration, there's going to be a spotlight on these changes that are happening not only with our economy, but with our value system. There's been a lot of instability, definitely with our values since 2019, but in more recent years, having to do with the workforce. And any of you have been following X and what's been trending over there with the H-1B visa debate and how this has impacted American workers and how they've been displaced. You know, even like the educated people having STEM degrees, and then half of them can't even get a job with that. So there's a lot of instability that has been going on and is continuing to go on in 2025 that we've got to sort through. And then to add another layer of difficulty to this, we have the South Node going into Virgo and going into the 10th house, which has a lot to do with government and careers and status and all of that. So let me say, before it gets into the ninth, where it will be for most of this 1.5 year transit, initially, we're going to see a major purge having to do with people who have been in the government, worked for the government. I mean, I'm not just talking about public servants or officials or elected people. Like, yes, there's going to be a mass exodus of those people, but also just everyday workers, like, people that work in the school system, people that work at the post office, people who work in higher education, basically any workplace that is largely dependent upon government funding will be impacted by this purge, which I think is going to be brought on a lot by DOGE, Department of Government Efficiency, which is going to be headed by Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy. So uh, I'm saying definitely 3 layers here. And then when you get into by the end of March, which will be eclipse season, we're seeing even more major shifts going on. So I'm just going to say there's going to be a lot of holy shifts going on. You got to buckle up. I think a lot of astrologers have rightly been saying that the first half of 2025 are going to be the most tumultuous. There are some industries that are going to be winners and some that are going to be losers. It's going to be a mixed bag. So I'm going to say right out the gate, if you work for big med, big pharma, might want to get another game plan. I'm just saying, like, you already see it coming, okay, with, what happened to that CEO, and there's people coming out that are, being whistleblowers and people defecting from within those lines of work, people saying this is not what I signed up for. I mean, as I am filming this right now, there's rumors that they're going to try and do another lockdown because of another pandemic. I mean, based on the astrology, I don't think that people are going to be complying this time around, because there's just too much data out there. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, it's because you're not on X, or you just don't want to know, but it's readily available. We have to speak in code, of course. But a lot of people who work in big med, big pharma have been defecting, and the ones that are still there are under incredible stress because I've heard whispers that they all know what happened in 2020. You might not know, they hope you don't know, but actually a lot of you do know. And they're getting a lot of backlash in the workplace. And they're dealing with their own health problems because of going along with that. So I could make a whole video alone on this topic of health and healthcare in 2025. If you want to know more about that, then, leave me a comment down below. That said, that's just a definite, if you work in those fields, you need to get another game plan in 2025 and in the foreseeable future. There is a way out. There is a way to pivot out of that traditional conventional med, but it's going to take some maneuvering because the way things have been done is not the way it's going to be. It's a major shift. I've said this before in my other videos. 2025 will be like no other year because we have so many major planets changing this year. You are involved in definitely the insurance industry, which is, say, an industry that is kept alive by a lot of government regulations and mandates and whatnot. You're probably going to get some effect of that as well. And so people are going to have to find their feet this year because I think if you got comfortable in certain lines of work, they're getting outmoded. Another thing that's getting outmoded is how a lot of us earn a living with all of this AI coming online. And right now, for like the first 5 months of this year, we're going to have Jupiter and Gemini. So seize the moment to put out any kind of intellectual property. Like if you are a writer, if you can create, let's say, digital downloads, things like that, the first 5 months of this year is excellent for that. Matter of fact, that's what I'm going to be doing, to put out more digital assets, more intellectual property, because that's really being favored the first 5 months of this year. So if you have, abilities in that arena, you would probably do well to invest yourself in that way. We're going to see a lot more AI influencing our lives, whether we like it or not. And we have to be careful about how we use this, because it can be used for good or evil. And there's a lot of people afraid of AI taking their jobs, and that's real. That is very real. Matter of fact, I don't know, how important this H-1B debate is, because it's been said, and I think rightly so, that those people on their way out anyhow. If you work in high tech, if you work for big tech, um, a lot of those workers that are being brought in from overseas inevitably are probably going to get replaced by AI robotics. Sorry to say. But I will say on the positive that the people, the individuals, the entrepreneurs who learn how to use and leverage AI to their advantage for their own personal businesses, startups and whatnot, which is, by the way, very strongly supported. Those of us trying to do, home-based businesses, family-owned businesses, things like that, businesses with trades where you're servicing homes, like say for a plumbing or electrical work, things like that, those people are going to thrive. And then you pair it with AI, you start using AI to actually, write your social media posts, manage your social media, write your ad copy for marketing and sales ads and whatnot. A whole number of things that you could do with AI. You start actually learning how to make the AI work for you, then you're going to thrive in this situation. And also, if you are looking at doing any kind of startup, like a home-based business or a family-owned business, if you find a way to really connect community, coming together and sharing resources and collaborating and co-opting with one another, that's going to be super powerful as well. Because a lot of craziness going on with big tech and whatnot, I see over the long term that big tech is probably going to be less in the public domain. We may over time evolve to a place where we're not really relying so much, we're not so heavily involved in social media platforms as we are right now. I think people are awakening to, the dopamine addiction, how it's a artificially curated false reality. And as people become more aware of this, and like I said, it starts shifting to where it's more run by AI and robotics. Unfortunately, I think the future of big tech is that it could fall more into the domain of the government, which we got to watch out for, but also people start becoming more disconnected from social media. As they start learning more about it, they start unplugging or at least using it rather than having the social media use them. Also, in the mix of this massive change, instability, unrest, I see the real estate industry getting impacted. I think that more housing is going to become available next year, which is going to bring the value of homes down. And I do think that MAGA is going to try to address the housing affordability crisis. I think will start seeing some shifts with that, but it's going to obviously be a mixed bag. On the upside, if you have been like my kids who are, Gen Zers, maybe you will finally be able to afford housing. And I do see people getting a lot more creative about that. A lot of people doing urban flight, going out to rural areas, off-gridding. I'm seeing trends of people finding out about grants through the government where they can get grants through the USDA to buy up rural land and become first-time farmers, where they can, with that loan money, not only get the land, but then maybe build a barn dominium or something like that on it. I mean, really ingenious stuff. Where people are having more of a pioneering spirit, being more about the home and creating a solid home base and solid home base business, however it is. But I do think that we are probably going to see more vacancies in the inner cities, not only because of the deportations that are going to happen, but also urban flight. All in all, I think there's going to be some positive change that comes out of this by the end of the year. But what it takes to get us through that is going to be a little bit dicey. And like I said, some of you are better positioned than others. If you are caught up in big med, big pharma, big tech, hell, even big ag, it's going to be rough. And you might want to start switching gears because, well, we're already feeling it. And definitely by January 12th, when the nodes shift, it's going to be game on.